Friends, it's your boy, Mr. Shady, coming at you with another lesson. Today we're going to be looking at points on the coordinate plane. And so the first activity is going to be called Guess My Line. And so if you're looking at this, you notice that it is a coordinate plane. The first thing that you could say is, what do you notice, what do you wonder? Well, something I noticed is I noticed that there are no labels of the axes. So the first thing that you need to remember is you need to remember that we label axes with X and Y, and when we plot coordinate points, it goes horizontal and vertical. So when I label my axis, I should know that this is always my X, and this is always my Y. And we should have talked about that from 5th grade, but we just reminding you of this sort of thing. So now we're going to read the directions to see what we're doing with this so that we can understand. So it says, choose a horizontal or vertical line on the grid, draw 4 points on the line, and label each point with its coordinate. So a horizontal line follows the x-axis. So it's a line that looks like this. This is a horizontal line. So you can also write horizontal down here. This is a vertical line. So I'm gonna just draw a line like it tells me. I'm gonna draw a vertical line, and it says draw 4 points on the line. So I'm gonna plot points. And label each point with its coordinates. So this is 7, 10, because I went over 7 and up 10. This one is 7, 8. This one is 7, 5. And this one is 7, 3. Now I'm going to ask you, I just plot it vertically, right? Notice I want you to look at this and recognize if there is a pattern happening when I plot those points on a vertical line. And so you should have noticed, right, that when it's a vertical line, my x-axis is always the same, right? So the only thing on a vertical line that changes is your y-coordinate. So that's the only thing that's changing when you plot a vertical line. So the difference is if I were to plot a horizontal line, my x value would change, but my y value would stay constant. So in this activity, you're going to plot some points, and this is kind of like Battleship, right? Where then you're going to plot this, you don't want other people to see it, and then people are going to try to guess a point that falls on your line. So if they guess it, so if it says, first you're going to tell your friend if your line is horizontal or vertical. Remember, vertical is up and down, horizontal is side to side. You can think about this as vertical, like a vertical jump, right? So you jump up and down. Horizontal has the word horizon in it, so that means that you're going side to side. So, so you're gonna tell your friend, what kind of line you have, and then you're going to guess, right? So it's kind of like Battleship. You're gonna guess which point, and they're trying to hit the points that you have plotted. And so that's the activity for here. And the big thing that we need to take away from this is the question of how do you know, right? So the big thing here is how do you know the points fall on the same line? So if I give you a vertical line, can you tell me another point that falls on this line, right? What's another point that would fall on that line? Well, 7, 2 would fall on that line because it starts with 7 and the y value is the thing that's changing, right? So when you jump up and down, the only thing that's changing is your distance, right? Or up and down in that direction. So you need to understand that, and then you need to understand how do you know the points are on a horizontal or vertical line. Well, you'll know that they're on a vertical line if the x-axis, if the x-coordinate is the same, and you'll know that they're on a horizontal line if the y-axis is the same. So that's kind of how you can tell those things. So you really need to be able to take that from this activity is you have to understand that. And so I'm going to write this down for you because I'm sure that some people are like, oh my gosh, he's going crazy. So how do you know the points are on a horizontal or vertical line. Vertical x-axis is the same, or x-coordinate, I won't say x-axis, x-coordinate is the same. And then horizontal, y-coordinate is the same. And you really need to understand that, right? Y-coordinate is the same. That is something that's major for you to understand as you're moving forward in mathematics. You need to also be able to calculate distance between 2 points. So if I look at this, right, this is 7,3, this is 7,5. The distance between those points is 2 units, right? 2 units where? 2 units up. If you're looking at that, 7,3 is 2 units down, right? And so you need to understand how you move on the coordinate plane as well. So I know I'm walking through this, and that's one activity for today. The next activity, we're actually going to expand the coordinate plane. So I'm going to give you something that looks like this. It's going to say the coordinate plane. And now you should see all 4 quadrants. So the coordinate plane is cut into 4 quadrants, and it's labeled, right? So I'm going to label it quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. So a thing about this, right, the pattern that I like to think about when I'm looking at this is that notice that these 2 numbers are odd, and so basically if these are positive, right, the opposite of that would be negative, negative. So these 2 sides, like, so this is always positive, positive. These 2 coordinates are always negative, negative. So I'm going to write that out like, so negative, negative, and then positive, positive. This one over here is going to be negative, positive, and then your 4th quadrant should be the reverse of that, which would be positive, negative, right? So it's kind of like a pattern if you really look at it. So we're going to be walking through this coordinate plane and answering the questions that correspond with it. So the first thing says label each point on the coordinate plane with an ordered pair. An ordered pair is just like this, right? So it has an x value, it has a y value. So I'm going to start with A on the coordinate plane. I can just write it down here. That way it has space. A's coordinate pair is you go over 3 and you go up 4, 3 comma 4. B's coordinate is you go over negative 4 and you go up 2. And so notice the language I'm using. So C is to the left of the number line is negative, right? I'm going to say that, and then you're going down. That's also considered a negative direction. So -5, -3 on the coordinate plane. And then D is to the right, so it's 4, but it's down. So it's negative, -2, 4, -2. So that's what the first thing it asks us to do is just label them, right? And then what do you notice about the location and ordered pairs of B, C, and D? How are they different from those of A? Well, in B, C, and D, they all have at least one negative coordinate. So D, C, and B have at least one coordinate that is negative. That is something that I noticed about them, right? That they at least have one coordinate that is negative. The next thing says we're going to plot a point at -2, 5. So to plot this, we're going to go to the left 2, and then we're going to go up 5. And we're going to label that E. Plot another point at 3, -4.5, label it F. So I'm going to go -3, -4.5. 4.5 should be between -4 and -5, right? And so that's going to be F. So I'm plotting that like it says. And then I'm gonna follow. The next thing says the coordinate plane is divided into 4 quadrants. 1, 2, 3, 4 is shown here. So they demonstrate that for you here. I know I jumped the gun with that. And so, you know, I just get super excited about coordinate planes. Who knew? So the coordinate plane is divided into 4 quadrants, and then it gives us some points here, and it tells us in which quadrant is G located. So if we're gonna plot G, right? Remember, we're gonna go to the right 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're gonna go up 2. So G is gonna be in quadrant 1. H is to the left, -1 and down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's in quadrant 3. And then I is to the right 7. And then down 4. So that's quad 4. A point has a positive y coordinate, and which quadrant could it be in? So if it's a positive y coordinate, it's only going to be able to fall above the x-axis. So if it's above the x-axis, the quadrants above that is quadrant 1 and 2. Right? Because that's a positive y value as you're going up. You need to understand that. All right, and so that's the end of that activity. Things that we need to take away from this. We need to understand that if a point has vice versa, if a point has a negative coordinate, negative x coordinate, it's either going to be in quadrant 2 or 3. If it has a positive x coordinate, it's either going to be in quadrant 1 or 4. If you have a positive y coordinate, it's in quadrant 1 or 2. If you have a negative y coordinate, it's going to either be in quadrant 4 or 3. So you have to kind of understand how these things fall, and you got to be able to, if you don't have a graph given to you, you can always draw the coordinate plane. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it will help you know the location of things and get things correct. All right, the last activity that we're going to be looking at today is we're going to be looking at some targeted archery, or some coordinated archery. And so the point of this activity is to really think about, like, you know, hitting a target, and then you getting the scores and what scores hit which color and all of that. So here's an image of an archery target on a coordinate plane. The scores for landing an arrow in the color regions are shown. So to get yellow, if you get yellow, you get 10 points, red 8 points, blue 6 points, green 4 points, and white is 2 points. Name the coordinates for a possible landing point to score 6 points. So if I want to hit something in the blue, right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I can hit 4, and that looks like 4, -2 would be a possible blue score. So -4, comma, -2. That's a possibility. 10 points. If I want 10 points, that means I want to be in the yellow. So I can be at -4, -4. That's a possibility to get me 10 points. To get 2 points, that means that I hit in the white space, which is outside. So I could do -4, -4, 1. So -4, +1 would work. No points would mean that I'm somewhere off the axis. So let's say 1, comma 1, because that's nowhere near the target. And that happens, especially when I'm playing darts. So more things you know, right? 4 points. If I want to score 4 points, I need to be in the green. So that's, I could say -5, comma 0. That's going to be a green target. And then 8 points. 8 points is red. And so 8 points, I could say -5, -3. Right? And so hopefully that makes sense, as you're just finding a point that falls within the parameter. There's multiple different answers here, so, you know, it's not a big deal. So that's the last activity that you're going to be doing today. And I just want you to understand the direction that you're moving when you're talking about the coordinate plane. So most of these, right, you're moving to the left because the target is within the negative region, quadrant 3 of the coordinate plane. And so most of your points will be negative, negative, to basically hit a target on there. And so that's something that I want you to be able to take away from this. The exit ticket today has target practice, which is similar to the activity that we just did. So you still have sort of, it's the only thing now is it's a little different because notice that your y value, so if you label this y is positive, x is negative, so this is technically quadrant 2. You should always label things with all the information that you know right away before you even get started with reading the question. So here are the scores for landing an arrow in the color regions of the archery target. So yellow's 10 points, just like what we just did. So Gordon shot 3 arrows and they landed at -5. So -5 and then up to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's blue. So you got 6 points. -8, -8, and then up 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks like he hit a red target, that's 8 points. And then 1,6. 1,6 would be over here. So that's 0 points. What was his total score? Looks like 14 points was his total score because he hit a red target and a blue target. So that is something that we know. So a total of 14 points. And then it says Jack shot an arrow and scored 10 points. He shot a second arrow that landed directly below the first one, but only scored 2 points. Name 2 coordinates that could be the landing points. So I want something that's 10 points and scored 10 points, which is yellow. So if I said -7, 5, right? -7, 5 would be would be 1, so -7, 5. And then this second part that gives him 10 points, he shot a second arrow that landed directly below the first one, but only scored 2 points. So 2 points would be white. If it's directly below that, that means that it has to be on the same sort of line, right? So I would say -7, +1. So basically what they're getting at there is they want you to understand that these are on the same line, right? And so when it says directly below that, it's just referring that they're on the same line, but he just shot it underneath that. And so that's what we're going to be looking at today. Thank you for joining. If you like this video, give it a quick subscribe. I will be making videos every day, and it's to support you in your learning journey.